Hi everyone, welcome back. So today we are going to talk about one of the important concept in Jenkins, which is called pipeline. So if you are wondering about how does developer build, test, and deploy their code within an automated manner, so this is the video for you, right? So before even we do a further deep dive on what exactly is Jenkins pipeline is just nothing about a dish. Okay. So think of it as a recipe where it requires multiple steps. Now, let's say the step one would be chop the vegetable. Step two is to fry them up. Step three is to serve them. Just like the same manner, we have something called pipeline where it is further classified into multiple stages and step where we write down what exactly needs to be done in each of the stages, right? Okay. So, keeping the base concept of recipe, let us understand and correlate it with Jenkins pipeline. Okay. A Jenkins pipeline is a set of automated process to build, test, and deploy application. Now, here when I am telling about build, test, and deploy, here we are talking that it is step one, step two, and step three for the recipe to be ready, right? Second is it helps in implementing CI/CD, that is continuous integration and continuous delivery and deployment. Okay, and third is it is written as pipeline or it can be act as a code using Jenkins file. We are going to see both the methods because we want to explore how does it work under the hood. Okay, now why we should consider pipeline in the very first sense, even though we have Freestyle project. So the first thing is it will automate the software delivery process. Second, it will provide you consistency and repeatability. Okay. And third, one of the important part that is it will help you in version control. Okay. That is you will be storing one Jenkins file in Git. Okay. And that will be used as a point of reference. We are going to see both the declarative and script pipeline so that like we have the clarity how does things work. Okay. And basically why we are considering pipeline in the very first sense because let's say there are complexity are present to build the application to deploy and push, all those things can be written over here. Now, how many types of pipeline do we have in the first sense? There are two main classification of the pipeline. First is a declarative and second is scripted pipeline. So declarative is very simple and structured, which is the most recommended way. And second is scripted pipeline, which will give you more flexibility and actually it is written in Groovy. Okay. Now here you can see there are two screenshots which I've added over here. So let's cover the one which is present over here. Okay. The one on the right hand side. So here the pipeline starts with an agent. There we have a stage. That stage is further classified into stage. Okay. So the first stage, what it does, it will build. Then there is a step which actually is printing echo building. Second is test, then it is testing, and third is deploy, where it is actually echoing the deployment. Okay. So this is a basic declarative pipeline, which is actually showing you the basic structure. How does a declarative pipeline look like? On contrary, if you go to the right hand side, here you can see a scripted pipeline is present. Okay, here it start with node and there are three stages, build, test and deploy. Now, if you see comparatively, scripted pipeline is looking very much simpler, but actually it is the declarative one which is very simpler and structured. Okay, it's a kind of template that you refer for every pipeline. When it comes to scripted pipeline, it is giving you more flexibility since you are writing it in a coding manner. In scripted pipeline, you can even write the loops. If you want to add few conditions, those can be implemented correctly over here. So when to use scripted and when to use declarative. So scripted you can use for more complex project which requires multiple condition checks. Okay, we are going to see both scripted and declarative. At that time, you'll get the clarity. Okay, which one to use at what case. Okay. Now here you can see a pipeline example. This is a declarative pipeline which I just explained to you. So here it starts with pipeline which defines the start of the pipeline. Here it contains stages which has multiple executional steps, build step, test step, and deploy step. Okay. And then how it is executing, first it will run the build, and then it will go to test, and then it will get to deploy. Okay. Now you might be having one question, Shubham, it does the same thing is been done by scripted pipeline. Then what actually is the difference between both of them? Now see, since you are following declarative pipeline, there is a syntax that you would be following too. Okay. And in scripted pipeline, you will be mostly following Groovy syntax. But here the issue is when you execute a declarative pipeline, okay, if there is any syntactical issue, it will not run the entire build itself. But when it go to scripted pipeline, it will wait till that stage and then it will throw the error. Okay, that is one of the basic observational change that you can see that I am going to tell you in the forthcoming videos. But for now, just remember, if you want to give more flexibility, if you want to add more condition, then go for the scripted pipeline. However, if you want to go with the templated one, go with the declarative pipeline, which is actually recommended, which will give you easier hand to build any application. And it is basically very easy to understand. Moving forward, that is, what are stages in pipeline? Now, taking the reference of the same example of the recipe, okay? Now, Jenkins pipeline is a recipe which requires multiple stage to prepare the dish. Stage one to chop the vegetables, stage two to fry them up, and stage three to serve them. Likewise, the same way we have stages in pipeline. The first stage will build, stage two will test, and stage three, which is the final one, will push the code to server or the container. Okay. Now, when we say build, it is compiling the code. It will install the dependency. Okay. Test code. It will run the unit test case or integrational test. And third is it will push the Docker images to the container. Now, there is one more thing to tell you that there is one more project that we are going to do where we are going to implement the same example where the code will get pull, it will get compiled, it will create a Docker image, and it will push to the repository. Okay, so this is a project that we are planning to do in the coming videos. All right. Now, what are the benefits of using this pipeline? Because this can be done manually itself. So the use case of using pipeline is we are actually avoiding the manual task. Okay, the first thing is we are using pipeline as a code. Here, you can just add your Jenkins file into your source code manager where you can take care of the versioning itself. So if something is changed, you can roll it back to the previous stable version. Second is reusable and shareable. Now, since you are storing the Jenkins file, okay, the syntactical file in your repo itself, there is no need to worry about whom to share it with. All the people who have the access to the repository can actually access the Jenkins file. Third, it integrates with Git, Docker, Kubernetes, and almost everything, whatever is required for you to get started with, because we have something called plugin, which we learned in the previous video. And the fourth and the last one is error handling and notification. Now, if something goes wrong in the pipeline during the executional step, you can just get an email notification directly, and you don't need to worry about it. If you want to know how you can send notification on build failure, you can follow along my previous video where we actually saw how you can send an email on the build failure. Okay, right. Now, we are also going to see a real world CI/CD flow where the developer will commit the code to GitHub. The Jenkins pipeline will get triggered. It will build and run the test case, and finally, it will deploy the image to the production. Okay. Now here, there is further one more enhancement that you can do. Okay. First is if you want to enable Git webhook. Now, what exactly is a webhook? So webhook is a feature in GitHub wherever like you commit on a specific branch, okay, the pipeline will get a trigger that okay, new changes been added, and then post that it will automatically build the changes and it will deploy the images to the production. So that is GitHub webhook. So that is something that you apply on the branches where you know that there are no frequency, the frequency of changes is very less. However, it is recommended to build the image directly with single trigger. Okay, so both the things we are going to see in the coming videos, but for now, the real world CI/CD flow looks like this. Next, and the final one, conclusion. Jenkins pipeline is equals to automation, which is the backbone of CI/CD. It will provide you flexibility, scalability, and better collaboration. Now, what can be future of Jenkins with pipeline? You can integrate with AI ML, Kubernetes, which is already possible, and third is cloud and DevOps, right? So that was all about Jenkins. In this specific segment, we learn about how does things work under the hood, how does pipeline work. Okay. In the next video, we are going to see how does declarative and scripted pipeline work. Okay. The first thing that we are going to do in the coming video is we are going to see, okay, what is the difference between declarative and scripted pipeline? Then we are actually going forward with the demonstration itself. All right. So yeah, that was all. And I will see you in the next one.